Okay, 8.6 boundaries. Are states organized? Boundaries. Physical boundaries include mountains, deserts, and bodies of water. Cultural boundaries include geometric and ethnic boundaries. A state is separated from its neighbors by a boundary, an invisible line that marks the extent of a state's territory. Boundaries completely surround an individual state to mark the outer limits of its territorial control and to give it a distinctive shape. Boundaries interest geographers because the process of selecting their location is frequently difficult. Historically, frontiers rather than boundaries separated states. A frontier is a zone where no state exercises complete political control. A frontier is a tangible geographic area, sorry, whereas a boundary is an infinitely thin line. Frontier areas were often uninhabited or sparsely settled. Frontiers between states have been replaced by boundaries because modern communications and electronic surveillance permit countries to monitor and guard boundaries effectively, even in previously inaccessible locations. Boundaries are of two types. Physical boundaries coincide with significant features of the natural landscape. Cultural boundaries follow the distribution of cultural characteristics. Neither type of boundary is better or more natural, and many boundaries are a combination of both types. Boundary locations can generate conflict, both within a country and with its neighbors. A boundary line, which might be shared by more than one state, is the only location where direct physical contact must take place between two neighboring states. Therefore, a boundary has the potential to become the focal point of conflict between them. The best boundaries are those to which will affected states agree, regardless of the rationale used to draw the line. Okay, so here's a desert boundary, okay, separating Bolivia and Chile, all right? Okay, and here's a water boundary. Okay, so it's boundary separating Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, right? They run through Lake Victoria, right? Physical boundaries. Important physical features on Earth's surface can make good boundaries because they are easily seen, both on a map and on the ground. Three types of physical elements serve as boundaries between states. Desert boundaries. A boundary drawn in a desert can effectively divide two states because deserts are hard to cross and sparsely inhabited. Desert boundaries are common in Africa and Asia. In North Africa, the Sahara has generally proved to be a stable boundary. Mountain boundaries. Mountains can be effective boundaries if they are difficult to cross. Contact between nationalities living on opposite sides may be limited or completely impossible if passes are closed by winter storms. Mountains are also useful boundaries because they are rather permanent and are usually sparsely inhabited. Here's another mountain boundary separating Argentina and Chile. Water boundaries. Rivers, lakes, and oceans are the physical features most commonly used as boundaries. Historically, water boundaries offered good protection against attack from another state because an invading state had to transport its troops by air or ship and secure a landing spot in the country being attacked. The state being invaded could concentrate its defense at the landing point. Boundaries can also divide sovereignty over bodies of water among countries. Cultural boundaries. Two types of cultural boundaries are common: geometric and ethnic. Geometric boundaries are simply straight lines drawn on a map. Other boundaries between states coincide with differences in ethnicity as well as language and religion. Geometric boundaries. Part of the northern U.S. boundary with Canada is a 2,100 kilometer 1,300-mile straight line, more precisely an arc, along the 49th north latitude, running from Lake of the Woods between Minnesota and Manitoba to the Strait of Georgia between Washington State and British Columbia. This boundary was established in 1846 by a treaty between the United States and Great Britain, which still controlled Canada. The two countries share an additional 1,100-kilometer (700-mile) geometric boundary between Alaska and the Yukon Territory along the north-south arc of 141 west longitude. There's a geometric boundary, International Peace Park between North Dakota and Manitoba, separating the United States and Canada, right? Ethnic boundaries. Boundaries between countries sometimes separate speakers of different languages, adherents of different religions, or members of different ethnicities. Examples in Europe include language separates Portugal, Spain, France, and Italy. Ethnicity divides this island of Cyprus between the Greek south and the Turkish north. Religion divides the island of Eire between the Republic of Ireland, which is 95% Roman Catholic, and Northern Ireland, which is majority Protestant, and it's part of the United Kingdom. Boundaries can be both physical and cultural. Okay, so here we have a language boundary separating France and Spain, an ethnic boundary. Here is Cyprus, divided between Greek and Turkish areas, separated by a UN buffer zone, which is a crossing between the Greek and Turkish lines. Physical and cultural boundaries, desert and geometry. The 1,000-kilometer boundary between Chad and Libya is a straight line drawn across the desert by the French and British colonial powers in 1899. As an independent country, Libya claimed that the straight line should be 100 kilometers, 60 miles to the south, and in 1973 seized the intervening territory known as the Aouzou Strip. In 1987, Chad expelled the Libyan army and regained control of the Aouzou Strip. Religion boundary. In 1911, the United Kingdom divided Ireland between the overwhelmingly Irish Catholic Republic of Ireland in the south and, at the time, majority Protestant Northern Ireland, which remained in the United Kingdom. All right, boundaries. Okay, so when